الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Tonight we're going to be going over Surah Al-Teen, which is the 95th Surah of the Holy Quran. And the good thing about tonight's discussion is that we're doing this after iftar. And I wouldn't like to do tafsir of Surah Al-Teen while you are fasting. So now if you later on want to go and have Watin wa Zaytun, you can. So this surah is one of the surahs that is talking about fruit. The apparent meaning of the surah is talking about fruit. And two types of fruit. One is the fig and the other is the olive. Showing us that God's blessings are not only, say, prayer and connection to Him, that one of the important things, because God swears by it, it means that it is important. So even these little, fig or zaytun that we have are, important and respected things. And imagine a world where God would create a universe with only one or two types of food, or three types of food. How many different types of fruit do we have? And how available is it? Especially where we are now, it's available all seasons. You don't even notice which fruit is in what season, because if it's out of season, they'll bring it from the other hemisphere, south hemisphere, where it is in season, they'll bring it for you. So one of the ni'mats of God is the fruit that we have. So this surah, Surah Teen was Zaytun, reminds us of that. The other part that I would like to say is this surah from Mecca or Medina? Is Mecca? Why? Because it says, وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, and by this secure city, which is pretty clear. I saw some of the Mufassirin say there's a chance it could be in Medina, but it might be pretty clear because it says Hada, unless you say that Rasulullah from Medina came back to Mecca and then it was revealed, for example. But it seems, from the circumstances that it should be a Meccan verse. So let's start with these 8 verses, and I'll talk about a little bit about the reward, because remember, every surah has a different reward. Every surah, chapter of the Quran has its own particularities and characteristics. One is from the noble Prophet of Allah, Man qara'aha a'atahu Allah khislatayn. Whoever recites Surah Al-Teen gets 2 khislas, gets 2 things. One of them, al-afiyah, meaning that they get 2 qualities. One of them is that they get health, for example. They get al-afiyah, they get health. 2, wal-yaqeen, they get certainty. Al-afiyah, if you want to be a healthy individual, recite Surah Al-Teen, and even if you want to be even more healthier, later on, have the teen too. Find some and eat it, inshallah. Wal-yaqeen, and it gives you certainty. Ma'dama fi dar ad-dunya, that's for the dunya. But in the akhirah, it mentions that you will be rewarded of all of those people who have, recited this surah in this world. You'll be rewarded with as the number, how many times they recited, how many times in this world, for example, people recite Surah Al-Teen. That number, take it, and it'll be turned into fasting. You will get the reward of fasting of how many people recited this surah. So therefore, it is the reward of fasting in the hereafter. It is the reward of afiyah, health, and it has the reward of yaqeen. Let's begin with the first verse. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If you have your phones and you promise to only look at this Quran, you can take out your phones and devices. Watina was zaytun, by the fig and olive. We have narrations that talk about what tina was zaytun as being other things as well. Quran can have different layers. So it could be, for example, fig and olive, but then you also have, for example, some of the traditions that say Atin Rasulullah. Fig is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Was Zaytun is Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So these are different, it can mean both at the same time. Or you have from Imam Rida alayhi salam, or you have from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Atin was Zaytun, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein. Is Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So these are some of the interior, batin meanings of the Holy Quran. Now, when we talk about this fruit, teen, how many times in the Quran does it appear? Only once. This is his first and last time appearing in the Quran, teen. Zaytun appears 6 times. 6 times in the Quran. Is a relationship between, everything, obviously all it does is with wisdom. Why 6 for Zaytun and why 1? Maybe later on if you have one, just have 1, fig and have 6 Zaytun and see what happens if you get even more healthier. We don't know. Now you see that this about Imam Rida talks about what teen and the health benefits of it. Yudhibu bil bakhar. It says it removes bad breath. In some of the narrations we have from Imam Rida, it removes bad breath. وَيَشُطُّ الْفَمْ and strengthens the bones, وَالْعَظْمِ the mouth, for example, the gums, the mouth and the bones. وَيَنْبِتُ الشَّعْرِ, for example, promotes hair growth. وَيُذْهِبُ الدَّاءَ بِالدَّاء removes illness. And then it is the most similar thing to the plants of paradise. قَالَ التِّينَ أَشْبَهُ شَيْءٍ بِالنَّبَاتِ الْجَنَّةِ Fig is one of the most similar to the fruits of paradise. So, inshallah, I hope, is it in season or no? I don't know. If we're just saying, is it available? I'm sorry, then. I should have saved this for maybe summertime. Is that when it's in season? He's saying maybe the thing. So then we talk about olive. Olives also, if you look at the benefit, especially olive oil, for example, cooking with olive oil, beneficial for the liver, the kidney, digestion, has vitamins, minerals. It is also called shajaratun mubarakah, for example, the blessed tree. Imam Ali alayhi salam mentions that the house, ma afqara baytun ya'tadimun bil khal, the house that uses vinegar, was zayt and olive oil, وَذَلِكَ إِدَامُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ will never be poor. It is the food of the prophets. Or for Imam Rida alayhi salam, نِعْمُ الطَّعَامِ الزَّيْتِ the best of food is, excellent food, is olive oil, improves breath again, removes phlegm, brightens complexion, olives, strengthens nerves, يَشَدُّ الْعَسَبِ if you're a nervous person, you have anxiety, for example, try it. Have some olives, maybe, inshallah, has an effect with you. Removes illness, وَيُسْفِلْ غَضَبْ and calms anger. Maybe the Sadat need to have this more than the normal people, for example, the Sayyids. Eat olive oil, the Prophet mentions, apply it. Why? Because فَإِنَّهُ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ it is from a blessed tree. So you see how these are blessings from Allah, olives. And sometimes we eat these fruit and we have abundance. We don't notice that how blessed we are to consume these, to have them, and what kind of design Allah gave to this, and what kind of creator He is for us. He gave us so much numerous blessings. Then you think of heaven, then if this is His dunya and His world, that He has so many different types of fruits, flowers, plants, vegetables, types of things to eat, what will happen in heaven? What's going to happen over there? What kind of buffet will be there, for example, for you to have? In that buffet, as much as you eat, you won't be fat, inshallah. There's no problem with using from the buffet of heaven, inshallah. So these are, Allah swears by it. So the first we said is watina was zaytun. Now we're going to go to the second verse, which is this. Watur Sinin, Mount Sinai. Tura Sinin, where Prophet Musa alayhi salam was وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. So sometimes the blessings of Allah are places, and places like Mount Sinai becomes blessed because that's where Prophet Musa alayhi salam was and got the revelation. وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, and Mecca is a blessing. The third is security. If you know that it says Balad al-Amin, Mecca is a place where even back then criminals would take refuge of in Mecca, for example, because they wouldn't get them or kill them. Or for example, you can't kill animals, for example, or certain mawjudat, or creatures. But here you see that one of the blessings that Allah has given us is security. Al-Balad al-Amin, the secure place. One of the good things to have is security. Then when Allah swears with three things, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, what is the thing He wants to say? He's going to say something afterwards, right? He swears, and then there's a statement, because He wants to make this statement important. What is it? لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have created man in the best stature, the best form. So therefore, all these things that Allah, from these fruits, for example, and Tur Sina, for example, Sinin, and then Balad al-Amin, Insan is created the best. Does this mean that the physical, for example, shape and how Insan looks is the best? Or is this all together, when you look at Insan, you see that he is the best creation of Allah? So we can say this, is that when you look at mankind, you see what a great creation it is. What great potential man has. Because we are the individuals that can get close to Allah. We are the ones who, with worship, with our free will, with the choices that you have, you can reach the highest of the highs. A'lal al-liyin. You can reach the best out of any other creation. But yet then the Quran then says, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. Then we return him to the lowest of the low. Meaning that insan, don't think that you're the best. You can also be the worst of creation. But who is he born as the best? Is he born as the worst? No, he makes this by his own action, his own voluntary action. Meaning that Allah judges us based off the choices we make. Every day, you make thousands of choices, every day. And you don't pay attention. Now, some are small choices, some are big. But every day, even like the choice to scratch my eyebrow right now, that's a choice, right? I have free will. Or for example, how to walk fast, walk slow, should I stand up? Should I come to masjid tonight? That was a choice, for example. Should I fast in Shahr Ramadan? Insan gets high levels based on those choices he makes. And we're always trying to make the best decisions. And being a good decision maker, being one who chooses the best, that is what makes us who we are. Sometimes it becomes too late. When you made one choice, you cannot go back. It's difficult. For example, where do you want to live? What company do you want to work for? How hard should I study? Right? As we progress in life, our life changes based on those decisions we made. Who should I marry, for example? There's a choice that I have. All these things insan builds for himself from his own free will. Now, true, some of the things are not in our hands. For example, what gender are you? Allah chose for us. Where were you born? What race are you? How do you look like, for example? Generally, these things are not in our hands. But what we are responsible with is what I am free with, what I could have chosen from A and B and C. So therefore, we look at life in this way, how the Imams mentioned that some things in life I can choose, some things in life I cannot choose. I will be judged based off those things that I choose. So therefore, man is different, is the best, because he can reach ultimate kamal from any other creature. But what is his kamal? Come from voluntary decisions. So we have to be very careful that we live our life with one that we make the best decisions, one that I'm very careful of, one that I study and I know how to make the right decisions, because every little thing I do will affect me for an eternity. And I'll see it. For example, some person decides to be a teacher. That person teaches someone, teaches them Quran, teaches them Salat. Then it continues. Then later on they die, they pass away. That student of theirs does Fatah for teacher. That student recites Quran. This teacher gets reward. That student or even child, for example, does good amal saleh because it was an effect from the teacher, keeps going in this world. They're dead, they're in the grave, but because of one decision they made, they maximized their existence, and now that student later on teaches another student, and that student teaches another student. This teacher is in the grave. Maybe here in this world they didn't have the highest salary, for example. They didn't give them the most, even though when the Prophet and Imams would give salary to the teachers, they would give them the highest salaries, like Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In one of the traditions, he had a son where the teacher taught him one verse of Holy Quran, like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, gave him thousands or 1,000 gold coins. Why? For teaching this to his son, because the Imams valued knowledge and valued the teacher. So therefore we see that, in this world, maybe sometimes in the decisions we make like that, profession I'm going to choose, what I'm going to, do with my time, it might look like in the superficial something very, not that complex, not that important, but then we say, Ajab, what effect did this have? He taught so many people, he had such a great effect, and he continues to live. There are, in fact, some of our ulama, if you look, today they're so alive, either their statements or what they did. Shaykh Tusi, for example, many of them, even though he lived 1,000 years ago, he's so alive because his books, his work is still being, studied today, and he's still getting reward. They were the smartest of people. If you can in this world do something that how one of the brothers said, passive income or passive sawab, for example, you build for yourself passive sawab with this voluntary action, then God forbid, eventually we all have to leave. Now some, they'll have no effect. They leave and that's it. There's no other reward for them in the hereafter. But then there'll be others that today they still are thinking of their sayings, studying, or they built masjids, they built centers with the money that they had. They built schools, they helped individuals. And those individuals are the successful ones. So in this Shahr Ramadan, when you want to say that ihsan, is in fi ahsan taqweem, not only is it, the physical shape of insan, but obviously it is our spirit and that capability that we have. And that capability that in 10, 20, 30, 80, 90, 100 years of life, we can do something for ourselves, that it keeps continuing, that effect keeps continuing. If you don't have something like this for yourself, invest in it. If it is, you don't have something, right now ask yourself, what do I have? If God forbid, I die right now, will there be anything for me in the hereafter or in the barzakh? If you don't have it, build it. Start something that when you're gone, it will continue for you. We continue to go over these verses of the Quran. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. And we said that one of the most important particular attributes of insan is that he is hayyun muta'allih, one of the definitions. He's alive. Insan is alive forever. He doesn't have death. Spirit doesn't have death. But he has ta'alluh. He has connection to God. He is in a way godly. This is the most important differential between insan and every other animal. Other animals, they don't have this ability to get ta'alluh, to get close in kamal through getting to know Allah. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. And today we see, and in history we've seen, the oppressors, those who harm individuals, those who take advantage of other nations, those who start wars and kill people and deprive them and oppress them. You see, this isn't something new. Some people say, are we living in unprecedented times? Because we see so much dhulm and oppression right now. In Iran we see it. In Lebanon we see it. In Gaza we see it. All these individuals, school children going to school, for example, 168. Then you ask yourself, what's going on? Is it particular? We actually say no. This has been the story of mankind. That there has always been two parties. One party from the beginning, I want you to read the stories of the prophets, the early prophets, from after Prophet Adam. Keep reading, say Prophet Idris and the other prophets. You see there's two clear paths. Those who wanted to be good, those who wanted God, those who wanted the prophets, and those who didn't, they were fooled by shaitan. And they did whatever they wanted to. And they harmed others like Qabil. He killed his brother Habil. Look, this is a story of mankind that it's very simple. There's two paths. There's either the path of Allah and there's a path of the enemies of Allah. In reality, yes, there are many people in between, they're confused. But these are the two paths. And therefore you see that insan in one aspect is ahsan taqweem. Allah says, Karramna bani Adam. We have given him honor, and Allah speaks heaven very great about insan. Then Allah smashes insan, says, kal an'am. He's like the cattle, for example, like, those who have, for example, graze and eat, from the grass, and bal huwam adal. Actually, they're worse. So this is the story of mankind. When they ask you, is it unprecedented what you see? And they asked us, and I said, no, this is not unprecedented what we see. This has been the story of insan from the beginning that man was created. There are two groups. One that wanted to be good and one that wanted to be bad. The one that wanted to be bad would oppress and harm and lie to the prophets and kill the prophets, while those who wanted to be good would defend the prophets, would help them out in other shape or form. And therefore we do not say that it is unprecedented. We expect this. If the world was not like this, this wouldn't be the dunya. We expect these two groups to struggle with one another. But what is important for us to know, as many of our greats that they make shaheed and kill, how many of our leaders, for example, they make shaheed and kill, we know this, that at the end, the aqibah, the end is for the muttaqeen, the end is for the righteous. And who is it? The Imam of the age. At the end, everything will be okay. We will struggle, we have to struggle, but at the end, the world will be inherited by the Imams. And they will rule the world, the Imam Mahdi will rule the world. So therefore, this has been the history of mankind, that either he can be asfal as-safilin, the worst of the worst, and oppress and harm, and lie, and deceive, and trick, and take advantage of people, for example, or he can be a good individual. May Allah always make us in our progeny of this army. The army is, as some of the traditions say, Junudul Aql, the army of Aql and intellect, not from Junudul Jahl, not from the army of ignorance. Inshallah. Allahumma please recite salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. So mankind, we return him to the lowest of the low, except for those who believe and those who do righteous, for they will be rewarded uninterrupted. So you see in this verse now, verse number 7, Iman is not sufficient. Iman is always coupled with action. We do not have a religion that you only can believe and you'll be saved. No, there are many believers that will be punished in the hereafter. Many believers, because of the corruption that they had in the grave. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam mentions in tradition, he is worried about the Shia, the followers, in Barzakh, what's going to happen in the grave for them. So just because you're Muslim or you're Shia Muslim, doesn't mean you're excused from your action. Many religions today, they say, just believe you'll be saved, because somebody else died for your sins. We say no, we are responsible. We are not born good or bad. We have inclinations towards good, we have inclinations towards bad, yes. But at the end, in other parts of the Quran, Allah mentions that insan loves Iman, that he hates fusuq. This is how we're programmed. But it's up to us to decide. فَمَا يُكَذِّبُكَ بَعْدُ بِالدِّينِ. So what yet causes you to deny the recompense? أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَحْكَمِ الْحَاكِمِينَ. Is it not that Allah is the most just of the judges? And the Rasulullah would say, you would repeat this and say, and confirm this, that Allah is the most just. And the end verse ends with justice. That at the end, the justice will be served. Again, this world is compared to the hereafter is like a blink of an eye. When you see injustice and it hurts you, and you're looking at it, you'll be saddened. But at the end, this is not the place where the final judgment will be. There, Allah will judge everyone, and He is Ahkam al-Hakimin. He is the most just of the judges. He is the witness and the judge. And we said in other surahs, like Surah Al-Zilzal, even an atom's weight of evil, or a part of an atom's weight of evil will be seen. Even an atom's weight of good will be seen. So those who oppress and those who harmed others on the Day of Judgment, they wish that they never had that ability to oppress. They wish they could come back to this world and make it up, but it will not be true. They will not be granted that. When we die, all of us will be shown, there's a tradition that says we will be shown two places, right? When we die, in the Day of Judgment, they'll show you, God forbid, that there is a place for you in hell, and they'll show that place to you. And they say, this would have been your place if you were bad. This was prepared for you if you were bad. And you are so happy. You almost die. The tradition says you almost die from happiness. That place was terrible. What if I really went to that hell? Then they take you to heaven, and you're so happy. Those who go to hell, the tradition says, then they show them that place in heaven. Say, that was your house. That was your garden. That was your palace. You destroyed it. You harmed all these individuals. You starved these children. You bombed these children. You know, this was your place, for example, in heaven. But now you're going to go to hell. They're as if they're about to die from sadness. All of us have these two positions. You just have to do, how the Quran says, Iman and Amal Salih, to gain that position for you in heaven. Not that position, God forbid, that can be us in hell. And keep in mind that we need Allah's help. We always ask Allah, as you see in the du'as in Shahr Ramadan, it's always about fakku raqabati minan nar, to free my neck from the hellfire. Or many of the du'as that we have over and over is to get freed from the hellfire. Because none of us know, are we truly freed or not? Hopefully we can get this freedom in the last nights of Shahr Ramadan, that Allah will sign our list and say, yes, He has many different, for example, insufficiencies, many mistakes, many sins. At the end, I'm going to overlook them, and they'll cross out our name from the hellfire. Inshallah, write it in heaven. Please recite Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.